With fewer than 2 days to the critical presidential election in the United States, respectable pollsters have declared the race a dead heat. In recent national surveys, Vice President and Democrat Kamala Harris led former President and Republican nominee Donald Trump by a single percentage point, 48.5% to 47.6% on average, according to pollster Nate Silver. These polls include those by NBC News and Emerson College forecasting a national tie of 49% to 49%, Ipsos giving Ms. Harris a 3-point advantage, 49% to 46%, and Atlas Intel giving Mr. Trump a 2-point lead, 50% to 48%. However, the margins were even closer in the 7 battleground states, which might determine the victor of the Electoral College and thus the next president. The New York Times Siena surveys, which have one of the top ratings on the polling research website 538.com, issued a new batch of polls that showed Mr. Trump ahead of Ms. Harris in Arizona, 49% versus 45%. The state has 11 electoral votes, slightly over the error range of about 3% points. However, in the other 6 states, Ms. Harris was marginally ahead in 4, Nevada, North Carolina, Wisconsin, and Georgia, and tied with Mr. Trump in Pennsylvania, which has 19 electoral votes, and Michigan. All 6 states' vote discrepancies between the two candidates were well within the error margin, implying that a small adjustment may result in a decisive victory for either candidate. While Ms. Harris's numbers will be encouraging given that Mr. Trump had a significant advantage in these states over President Joe Biden prior to his withdrawal from the race, the close margins in the blue wall states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania will cause her campaign a lot of concern. These states are also known as the Rust Belt because they were formerly major manufacturing and industrial hubs but are now facing relative urban deterioration with 270 votes out of 538 in the Electoral College. The clear approach will be to retain these blue wall states, even if Clinton loses elsewhere. However, a defeat in the Rust Belt will require her to outperform Mr. Trump in the Sun Belt, which includes hot/subtropical states with growing populations like as Arizona, Georgia, and North Carolina, the latter of which Mr. Trump won in 2020. The NYT Siena polls released on Sunday, the most recent in a series of such polls, showed that Ms. Harris was keeping the Sun Belt states competitive, while Mr. Trump was doing the same in the Rust Belt. This indicated that the election was too close to call. Other highly regarded pollsters, such as Atlas Intel, also predicted a close race in the swing states, giving Mr. Trump a modest advantage. Poll aggregators, like statistician Nate Silver in 538.com, anticipated that the election would be a toss-up, with both candidates having a nearly 50% chance of winning. The opinion surveys in the lead-up to the 2016 and 2020 presidential elections indicated comfortable margins for Democratic candidates Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, respectively, but Mr. Trump polled much better in the actual election, even if he did not win the popular vote. To correct for prior cycles' flaws, many pollsters reweighted their samples to include more Republican respondents. NYT Siena, on the other hand, has stuck to its practice, with no such pre-weighting. Pollsters have indicated that the race between Ms. Harris and Mr. Trump has been closer than in the 2020 elections, owing to the Democratic advantage among racial minorities narrowing, Mr. Trump gaining some support among these groups, particularly those who are not college-educated. Ms. Harris has regained some support since Mr. Biden's exit, while also increasing her status among white voters, particularly women, with the abortion issue dictating her stronger support among them than Mr. Trump. A poll conducted by highly regarded pollster and Selzer shows Ms. Harris leading Mr. Trump 47% to 44% in Iowa, which is typically considered a safe state for Republicans. According to the New York Times Siena and Iowa polls, the victory of either candidate in the United States presidential election may be determined by the relative turnout of important voting segments for the two parties.